Cleaning the house, Carol gets irritated that her husband never leaves his things in the right place and puts his shoes in the backyard of the house. Soon after, Alana arrives, who is the neighbor, asking how she is and commenting on the rain that does not stop falling. Carol replies that she is fine and agrees that it has been raining a lot. The neighbor then says that she went there to borrow the broom, as she doesn't know where she put hers. Carol says she'll lend it to you as soon as she's finished sweeping. The neighbor asks her to look outside, saying she saw something, and at that time, without Carol noticing, the neighbor takes some money that was inside the shoe. As soon as Carol hides the money, she turns around and says she didn't see anything. Alana just agrees that she must have been confused and asks her to call her when she's done using the broom. As soon as she's going to leave, Carol calls her and hands her the broom, saying she's finished to use, then asks Alana to wait a bit, goes to the kitchen, comes back with a cake and says, "I made this cake for you to have breakfast. Alana, please go away." Later, Carol's husband comes home and greets her. She asks how her day was and he replies, "It was good, but what are my shoes doing here?" And she explains, "I put him out here to get some air. I already told you that you need to do this at least once a week." Ron asks where is the money he had put inside the shoes, and she, without understanding, asks, "What money?" And he replies, "The money that was inside that shoe is not here anymore." The woman, without understanding, asks what that money was, and the husband says, "Carol was the money to pay the rent. It was kept in here and now it is gone." She replies that she didn't see any money, she just put the shoes outside, and he despairs, saying he needs to find that money, because Kyuri, who is the housewife, is almost here to get the money. Carol is also desperate for not having seen any money, and her husband says, "I saved this money all month, for this money to disappear like that, out of nowhere. Now what am I going to do when Kyuri arrives?" Carol says she's going to go to her neighbor Alana's house, who had just left there, to ask if she saw the money. The boy agrees and asks her to go quickly. As soon as Carol leaves, her husband starts blaming himself. "Why did I have to keep money in that shoe? This is all my fault." Alana is sweeping the yard when Carol arrives, asking how she is. She replies that she is fine and asks what happened, so Carol asks, "When you went over to the house to get the broom, didn't you happen to see some money?" Alana replies that she didn't see anything and asks why. Carol starts to explain, "My husband had saved the money to pay the rent inside the shoe, and now that money is gone, we have to pay that rent today." Alana says, "The worst thing is that I didn't see it and I don't have any money either. If I had, I would lend it to you." Carol is sad, but says that everything is fine. When she is leaving, Alana says that she will take her broom soon, and she says that's fine, then thanks her and leaves. Arriving home, she finds her husband going through the garbage bag. When he sees her, he asks if she has any news, but she says that unfortunately the neighbor didn't see anything. He is outraged at how that money could disappear like that and worries about the possibility of Kyuri expelling them. Carol also doesn't know what to do and says, "That money just disappeared. I would never have imagined that you had kept the money in your sneakers." Her husband replies, "Yeah, 1,200 reis is a lot of money to get it fixed quickly, but I'm going to have to find a way so we don't get evicted from here." Carol asks him to calm down and says that together they will fix this situation. He asks how they are going to do it in less than a day, and she starts to explain the idea she had. "What do you think about talking to Nathan, our neighbor? We can tell you everything that happened there. I think he can borrow it." Seeing that he has no other option, the husband agrees that the neighbor can try to help, and the two, halfway through, they decide to look on the sidewalk in case the money has fallen there. When Nathan, Alana's husband, passes by them and asks, What happened?" And they answer, "We are looking for some money that we lost. It is 1,200 reis. Could it be that you did not find that money?" The boy is surprised by the amount and says that this is really a lot of money, but that if he had found it, he would definitely return it. Carol explains that the worst part of all this is that today is the last day to pay the rent, so they don't know what to do. The boy offers help for whatever they need, and they thank him. Alone at home, Alana is counting the money she stole from Carol when her husband arrives asking what that money was. She replies that her sister had sent it and he is surprised since her sister had never given it to her. Nothing before, so she explains, "It's because I had lent her some money a while ago, and yesterday she transferred that money to me." He continues to find this story strange and Alana changes the subject by saying that he is going to have lunch because the food is ready. She replies that she is already going, but before that she goes outside the house and calls her sister-in-law. "Take one my debt, how much did you transfer to Alana? Oh, and I wanted to thank you in advance, this money came at a good time." The sister-in-law does not understand and asks, "What transfer?" "I did nothing." He asks if this is serious and thinks it's strange, but thanks and says goodbye. Going back inside the house, the boy asks, "Alana, how much did your sister transfer you?" 1,200 reis, she replies. He then says, "How strange too, because I just called her sister and she told me that she didn't transfer any money to you." Alana has no answers. He understands everything and says, "How did you have the courage to steal from our neighbors, even knowing the situation they go through every day? What a disappointment, you have no empathy? They'll be kicked out of the house because of what you've done." Alana pretends not to understand and asks, "What are you talking about? I didn't do anything," but the husband doesn't believe it and remembers, "Every time you went to my mother's house, money disappeared, she always told me, or do you think I don't know? Now you're going to take that money, you're going to give it back to Ron and Carol and apologize for what you've done." After seeing that he discovered, Alana says, "You talk right to me," and another, "Finding is not stolen, it's not my fault if they're not careless." Nathan asks if that gives her the right to take money that isn't hers and says that this is very wrong, but Alana tells him to stop the drama, that it's not even that much money to be missed so much by someone. The boy says that this money may not be much for her, but for the neighbors it is worth a lot and that this money she stole is costing them their house. He then pulls Alana, forcing her to go to Carol and Ron's house. Meanwhile, Kyrie arrives at the house. Ron meets her and greets her. Kyrie says he went to get the rent money and with a lot of shame, he starts to explain that he had a problem with the money. Kyrie doesn't like to know that and says, "Another problem? I've already warned you, I'm fed up with this, each time you invent something different, it doesn't work that way." Carol tries to convince her that this time the money really disappeared and they ended up not knowing what to do, but Kyrie says she has no more conversations and just wants them to vacate the house since they don't have the money to pay the rent. Ronnie tries to insist, asking for just a few days for him to get the money back together, and Carol also says that they'll be able to collect the money, but Kyrie doesn't go back on his decision and says, "It's not possible, look at the damage you're doing to me. I left my house to come here to collect the rent and you don't have the money." Carol explains that they stole the money that same day inside their own house. Besides, they spent the day looking for it and that's why they ended up forgetting to warn her. Again, Kyrie just asks them to leave the property so that she can sell it. Ronnie tries to insist again for a few more days, but Kyrie says, "Either you pay me or I call the police." At that time, Nathan arrives with Alana saying, "Hi neighbors, I came to bring your money, it's here." Ronnie says that he doesn't need to borrow that money, but Nathan starts to explain, "This money here is yours, my ex-wife stole it from you." Ronnie doesn't understand and Carol says to Alana, "What do you mean you had the courage to do something like that?" Alana apologizes and says it won't happen again. Carol takes the money and gives it to Kyrie, saying it's for the rent. She takes it and says, "Thank you, this serves as a lesson for you to see who you can trust." After the lady of the house left, Carol still couldn't believe what happened and said, "Well Alana, how did you have the courage to do this to me? I even made a cake for you, I always considered you as my sister." Embarrassed Nathan says, "I want to apologize 1,000 times to you, because I'm not like that." Then he turns to Alana and says, "You're going to get your things now and leave our house." Alana refuses to leave, but he insists that she has to leave today. as he won't be with someone like her. Alana leaves and Nathan once again apologizes for what happened. Carol says that everything is fine and that he is not to blame for anything, since Alana was the one who did it. She thanks him for making Alana return the money, saving them from being thrown out of the house. Ron also thanks the neighbor, and Nathan says that the couple can always count on him for whatever they need. After Nathan leaves, Ron and Carol are overjoyed that everything worked out in the end.